Jesus, that's light. It's something else. Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Hell of a weekend of rugby, and thought I would talk about something that I feel quite passionately about. It all sparked off from me reading this article this morning from Matt Dawson on BBC Sports, speaking about how England have found an edge to bounce back. And kind of summarising this article, and what Matt Dawson talks about a little bit is this kind of juxtaposition, which I talked about a little bit in the video I did for the review of the England-Scotland game, where I talked about, you know, is it better to win ugly or to lose in style, right? And in this article, Dawson touches on some positive points for England. For example, the scrum, the line-out's better, defensive adjustments. They got 2 tries scored on them within the first half, but then in the second half, there wasn't a score. I think it was something around the 30th minute up until right until the last blow of the game, right? So there are positives to take away from this. England won. And he also talks about the fact that it doesn't really matter how England play as long as they win. He rightfully says, as I also experienced being there, that the crowd was fully into the game, very excited. Pubs were filled up after the game. It wasn't feeling. There was the feeling that England were lucky to win the game. They definitely probably should have lost, but the fact that they won, it didn't matter the style. The fans were still massively appreciative of that, and the ones within the stadium. And the interesting thing about this article is that you look, and the article has over 2,000 comments in there, and all these comments are I'm kind of seeing the discourse online as well. You know, stuff basically saying like, no game plan, kick, basically just criticism of what England's doing, and kind of how they've developed under Borthwick in this new era since the World Cup, right? And, you know, to be honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan of Matt Dawson's articles. You know, a lot of them I kind of disagree with. But in this rare occasion, I thought it would be prudent of me to come forward and say I'm actually very supportive of what Matt Dawson says here. And it feels like, I don't know if you've seen those memes where it's like, what's that one thing where everyone disagrees with you, but you know you're right? It's kind of that situation for me, where I feel like, you know what, honestly, England didn't play the best. And as I talked about, there's attacking adjustments that they need to do. They need to get better at, you know. Yes, the box kicking was there because it was obvious they were going for a certain game plan. The game plan wasn't working. It was probably time to adjust in the attacking sense, like they did defensively so well. They needed to do the same thing for the attack, and they needed to maybe have a bit more confidence with ball in hand, you know, go over the gain line, as they actually did for setting up kicks. But at the end of the day, England won. You know, they won the game, and that's what's important. What is important is to win, you know. It doesn't matter how you win, you just got to win. I mean, I think there's too much of a consensus and a zeitgeist right now over this, like, you got to score tries to win. And Gregor Townsend said in his post-game interview, he was saying, like, I think we were actually okay from an attacking perspective because we scored 3 tries and England scored 1. That's great on paper, but the reality is you lost the game. And there's a lot of echoes between these kind of sentiments of like, you've got to score tries to win, and that not really adding up to the reality. If we look back at the 2023 World Cup, you know, South Africa is the obvious example. Winning games by 1, 2, 3 points. I would argue their rugby was more exciting against teams such as France in the World Cup than England's style was today, but I think the point still remains. And again, New Zealand is another example of this. Again, the comparison of exciting rugby is maybe not there, but I remember specifically in the quarterfinals when they were playing Ireland, New Zealand played the game that was in front of them. They kicked penalties when they were on offer. They took the points that were on offer. They played smart rugby to just eke out a win. And it didn't matter how they did it, they did it. And the contrast in that is Ireland didn't do that. They kept going for the corner. I guess my point really is that, you know, when England didn't win games against some of the best teams in the world in the autumn, such as New Zealand, South Africa, Australia was one that maybe they were more expected to win, all the criticism was like, well, England are playing more exciting, but it falls apart in the last 20 minutes. And then we look at these games with France and Scotland, and at the end of the day, they closed it out in the last 20 minutes. So, I don't know. I kind of get it. I get it from both perspectives, but I'm definitely more in the camp of, you know, they're winning games. And I'm excited to see what England do, you know. Coming up in 2 weeks' time, they've got Italy. I would hope to God that they do analysis on this game, which I know Borthwick is famous for doing. He will take analysis of this game and be like, look, there was opportunities to run with the ball in hand here, right? There was opportunities to do that. Let's do this against Italy. Let's just have a bit more confidence. Even if we're within our own half, let's give it a shot, you know? Because there were so many opportunities where Ben Earl or Tom Willis would set up for a box kick by taking a run and they go 5 meters. I would like England in those situations to just think, okay, well, we're in our own half, but we've made 5 meters. Let's go quickly and give it a go. And if it doesn't work out, then kick, you know? I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, it must be very difficult to be England head coach. You know, Scotland lose the game. They lost against Ireland as well, and I would say they didn't even turn up to the races. Got to be fair where fair's fair. You know, that big head collision changes the game plan, but they should have a game plan for who should step in at 10. Like, if that happened to England, they'll be like, well, you got to know who's going to step in at 10 in that regard. Scotland as well, during the World Cup in 2023, yes, they were in what was called the group of death, but I would argue against Ireland and South Africa, they didn't even turn up. They didn't have a tactic. You know what? I'm happy. I'm happy that England won. There's always room for improvement. And you can always say that, you know, teams have odd games where they just, you know, it gets difficult. You know, look at France against England 2 weeks ago. Not the best team and kept fumbling over themselves. But what I've said on this channel, and what I've continued to say, is a sign of a good team is a team that can win even when they're not playing their best. I would say for you out there that are watching England, whether you're an England fan or not an England fan, which means you probably hate England and you watch England and you wish they all were just not part of the rugby community, I would say to you, just hold steady. I don't think it's time for the judgment to call on Borthwick and whether he's the right guy for the job or whether England are doing everything right or wrong or whatever. They're winning games. That was the big criticism in the autumn. They're finally winning games, and it's happening in the last 20 minutes. So just hold steady and let's just sit back and watch rather than just being Monday morning quarterbacking in terms of England. Well, we're awful. It might have been awful when they won the game. Anyway, that's all I got to say on this. I'm sure I'm probably going to rile some people up, but yeah, is what it is. Anyway, see ya.